Thanks for joining us again on GBGuns. This time we've got an American classic. If you're not familiar with that brand, you might recognize the Metro Arms. We're taking a look at the Commander size 1911 from American Classic, coming up next on GBGuns. So I mentioned Metro Arms, and yes, I know the case is upside down now, and that's because they're the ones that built this beautiful bob cut. This is one of my all-time favorite 1911s. For hand size like mine, this bob here just really fits well, and I already know the Burgundy Bomber is going to be a fan of it. If you've read this month's release of Tactical Life, you see Burgundy Bomber modeling with this exact gun in that issue. Now, Metro Arms has basically three brands. This one, their house brand. There's SPS, which made the incredible Pantera. This thing is like a laser beam as far as accuracy. Just super silky smooth to shoot. 9mm full-length competition size gun. This is sort of their top end in competition. You've got the Metro Arms as the mainstay, and American Classic with some surprising affordability. So I was curious, and I know some of you were curious, if you still get that level of tightness and fit, and keep in mind this has well over 1,000 rounds through it, or if the American Classic ones are going to be lower in any way. So that's what we're going to take a look at. So the guns always come in these hard cases. I used to joke that it's somewhat like the case you would buy a drill in. The gun was bagged and heavily oiled, preserved. In here I pulled it out and wiped it down so that we can take a look at it. Up top you've got spot for mags and your paperwork. I'm going to get the case out of the way and to take a look at the manual. Some of you get annoyed when I do this. I take a look at the manual because it shows me what level of care and pride the company puts into their products. So you can see we've got real photos here, nice and clearly done, showing disassembly and reassembly for both full-length guide rods and non-registration card, etc. Nicely bound, and it has a nice little out-of-the-way place to stay in the case. Here is the gun. Wow, look at that bluing. So if I can get the oil off here. Nice, rich bluing. Let's check clear, and we'll take a look around the gun. A little bit of a stick there. Comes with one 8-round magazine. These are Italian-made Act Mags, I believe. Nice magazines with a chromed follower. Coming up front, where we always start, slide to frame fit. A little bit of side to side, no vertical play. Everything good and snug. Barrel lockup is rock solid. Nice, clean, simple front. No rail or anything, keeping with tradition. Conservative branding marks. No modifications to the front strap or the trigger guard, but there is a nice radius here. Tactikitty approves of getting the for getting all three fingers on there. Commander size guns are a little bit shorter in the barrel, but maintain this standard length. It makes them a little more comfortable, easier to carry, and reduces some weight. Our serrations are nice and deep and classic. We can see that all of our controls are extended. Can easily reach slide stop release without having to reach too far, because it's got a nice extension there that matches and is parallel with the safety. So everything's even plane. Our magazine release is extended to make it easy to reach. And we've got a nice textured adjustable trigger there. Speaking of triggers, let's give it a feel. Comes to the wall, breaks. That was it. Reset, breaks. Very, very nice trigger. Of course, 1911s and single actions are infamous for having great triggers. I found Metro Arms to be exceptional, and this is definitely no different. Now, the detail on the scale of these grips is pretty cool. See if the camera can pick up on it. I posted some photos on our Facebook and Instagram to show you. There's little tiny notches inside of those scales. Really, really nicely done. Pretty grips. Grips, of course, are interchangeable on 1911s, and that's one of the things that people love so much about them. But with these, I don't think you need to. I think that's a handsome multi-tone wood on deep bluing. Coming around, we'll look at the bottom. We do not have any beveling for a magazine, which single stacks, of course, are the more difficult ones to insert, but a little bit of training can fix that. No lanyard loop, which is nice. Those just get annoying when you carry a gun. We've got some vertical serrations on the mainspring housing. The grip safety is extended, as is the beaver tail, to make it easy and positive to disengage and keep your hand clear of the slide. Slide to frame fit is uncanny. Almost no movement at all. Very taut. We've got a 3-dot sight system. The dots are somewhat orange, and they are dovetailed in there, so if you wanted to change them, you certainly could. On the right side of the gun, we do not have an ambi safety. Everything is kept rather classic in that sense. Lowered and flared ejection port to help increase reliability. Good looking gun. Next, we'll field strip this guy and take a look inside the gun. So there's more than one way to disassemble a 1911. I've always done slide off first and just made it easier, but I catch a lot of flack for that, so I will show you the traditional way, which is going to be to depress on this piece here so that we can turn our bushing for the barrel. And I always forget which way unlocks. Obviously it was to the left. This is under pressure, so you gotta be careful pulling it out. Now we can pull out that plug and spring with zero pressure remaining on the gun. We're gonna pull back until this small loop here is over the slide release. Push on the pin from the other side. Pull the pin straight out. And now the slide can come off. We've got our very short guide rod. Man, it's short on these commander guns. And with that out of the way, we can remove the barrel bushing, which has to be turned to a certain position to unlock. And I don't always find it right away. Looks like it's about there. Barrel bushing comes off. Knock that locking link forward and your barrel can come straight out the front. We've now field stripped the 1911. Looking at the barrel, we can see that we've got same rich bluing, a little bit of wear already on the finish. That's interesting. And a nice hard chrome over the chamber. Beautifully polished feed ramp. Looking inside our slide, we can see that this is a 70s series, which means there is not a drop safety plunger to protect the firing pin from moving forward. A lot of purists prefer these because the trigger feel tends to be better. What happens is when there is a plunger in there, as you're pulling the trigger, part of what you're doing is lifting up on that plunger, and that adds to the amount of things that have to happen when you squeeze the trigger. So a lot of purists prefer it this way. It tends to make for a better trigger. I've felt some really nice 80 series with the plunger, but this not having a plunger certainly adds to how great the trigger feel is. Looking at our machining in there, you can see that everything is very cleanly done. Looks good. Looking at our frame, still heavily oiled from the factory. You can see that nice polish. Look at that throat. That's to help feed from the magazine up into the barrel. Beautifully done. Nice rich bluing everywhere. It really is a nice classic rich blue. Looks good. This will be a fun one to shoot. I know Burgundy Bomber's a 1911 fan, so I'm excited to see and hear her impressions of this thing. We will get it out to the range soon, and the What's for Dinner test is a little more limited, a little less exciting on 45, simply because there aren't as many options out there for bullet weight, but that's okay. We can deal with that. Then of course full mag +1 will happen, and we'll get our accuracy group out there as well. So in putting this back together, we need to make sure that that link, if you look at that window there, is hanging down so that we can stick our pin back in. And then not pushing all the way down until the slide has come back to leave that little window there to be able to push in this pin. So slick. Come on, get in there. There we go. Now that that's in, everything's locked up together. I forgot the guide rod. All right, good practice, good practice. Anyways, while I go back and do this, obviously it's been a minute since I've done 1911s. After I go reset all of this. You guys don't need to keep watching, obviously. You know what happens from here. And if not, you can keep watching to witness the reassembly. 1911s are a bit more complicated to put back together than your modern Glock, and that's with good reason. Now, a tip on putting together these guide rods when they're just sitting here flopping. Sometimes it can be difficult to get the spring started on them. So what I've found helps is go ahead and start your spring now, like that. That holds everything in place. Now we can bring the slide back and look for that link by moving the barrel back and forth until the link pops out, and continue the rest as you saw. I'm not going to continue to embarrass myself on here. I'm sure you all have better things to do. But yeah, it does take a little more to do these, and if you haven't done them in a while, it's a little complicated. There are guys out there that certainly can make this look a lot easier than I am. But it's well worth it if you enjoy a nice trigger, because the 1911 single action trigger is really not one that can be easily argued against. Get our slide lock back to take as much pressure as possible out of here. Actually, correction. Move this back forward. Rotate the barrel bushing out of the way, push this pin down, rotate the barrel bushing back, and the gun is now back together and functioning. Very oily. Came out of the box almost dripping, but that keeps everything nicely preserved. We'll have to get it all wiped down, of course, before shooting. Looking forward to this gun. This is the American Classic Commander from Metro Arms and Eagle Imports. Thanks for watching.